Hello everybody, it's Sarah, and it's almost the end of April and I still haven't talked about either last year's r/fantasy bingo challenge or the new r/fantasy bingo challenge. So yeah, it's time to do that. And this video will be my TBR for the 2024 r/fantasy bingo. For those of you who don't know, every year there's a bingo on r/fantasy that goes from the 1st of April to the 31st of March in the next year. And you have basically 25 prompts. All prompts have a hard mode version as well. And the goal is to read as many new books as you can. So to push yourself outside the comfort zone, etc. And yeah, I have started taking part in this bingo since I think 2022, maybe 2021. I don't remember, to be honest, or not perfectly. And so yeah, these are the books that I want to read for 2024. I find these bingo challenges to be like a really good motivation to get through books that are on my TBR usually. And so yeah, let's get through it. I, by the way, have successfully finished the 2023 challenge. I'm not sure yet if I'll do a wrap-up. Tell me in the comments down below if you want one. But we have 25 books to get through, so let's get into it. The first square, the first prompt is read the first in a series. And hard mode for this one is the series is more than 3 books long. And for that one I just piled all the books next to me, so it might always take me a little bit to get the books. But for that one I have The Curse of the Mistwraith by Jenny Wirtz, which is the first book in the War of Shadows and Light, I think the series is called. And the last book in the series is actually only published this year, or at least there's a new book in the series this year. And it's over 3 books long, I think 6 or 7 books or something. It's a hefty boy. It's, how many pages is it? Yeah, 800 pages long. But yeah, I really enjoyed the Empire trilogy that Jenny Wirtz co-wrote with Raymond E. Feist, and so I want to give more of her books a chance. And this is one, like, this is a really well-known and well-loved series once you dive deeper into classic fantasy. Second one is alliterative title. Read a book where multiple words in the title begin with the same letter. And hard mode is the title has 3 words or more that start with the same letter. And for that one I actually already finished the book, and that was The Monstrous Mrs. Mai by... who was the author? Just a second. Van Huang. Technically I started this book in March already, but I had like 10 pages of it read, so I'm still counting it. And this one I got an arc for. It's kind of historical urban fantasy set in LA, I think in the 60s, 70s, 80s, somewhere around there. Prompt number 3 is Under the Surface. Read a book where an important setting is either underground or underwater. And hard mode is at least half the book takes place underground or underwater. And for this one I also already finished this prompt. I chose Fathom Folk by Eliza Jan. This one, I actually can't tell you if it's hard mode or not. However, a good chunk of the book takes place underwater because it's set in the city where basically you have Fathom Folk and you have humans, and a lot of the Fathom Folk live underwater, so a good chunk of the book is set underwater. For the next prompt, I actually do not have a book yet because there are quite a few prompts this time where I just didn't know what to pick for it. But prompt number 4 is Criminals. Read a book in which the main character is a criminal. And hard mode is it's a book that features a heist. And to be honest, I do not have any books with heists or criminals on my TBR right now, at least none that I know. So yeah, I just ignored this prompt for now. But if you have any recommendations, please tell me in the comments down below. Prompt number 5 is dreams. Read a book where characters experience dreams, magical or otherwise, and hard mode is the dream is not mystical or unusual, just a normal dream or a nightmare. And I have to be honest, I hate prompts like this, where you literally can't plan for this and you kind of have to have friends who can tell you if a book fits the prompt. Like, I think it makes it kind of difficult to find books and not to just like have to accidentally read a book that fits this prompt. And especially with something like this where the purpose is going out of your way to pick up books that you wouldn't usually pick up, I don't see the sense in prompts like this. But anyway, I asked a few friends and they said that this book probably counts and that they remember dreams being in here, and that is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillick. This is like high fantasy, romantic fantasy type, I think. Also, if you're interested, this is the book for May for my book club, which is of Queens, Witches and Valkyries. And it's all about reading fantasy written by women and genderqueer people. And so yeah, May, this one which I'm quite happy with. And I have the feeling that this will be a quick read for me. So that was the first row. On to the second row, and the first prompt for the second row is entitled Animals. Read a book that has an animal in the title. The animal in the title doesn't have to appear in the story. And hard mode is the animal in the title is a fantasy or sci-fi creature. For this one, I did not pick hard mode, and I picked The Den of Wolves by Juliet Marley, which is the third book in the Blackthorn and Grimm series trilogy, and I just picked this as an excuse to get it and to then read it. Prompt 7 is Bards. Read a book with in which the primary protagonist is a bard, musician, poet, or storyteller. And hard mode is the character is explicitly called a bard. I do not remember if that was the case here. However, the book that I picked was The Doors of Midnight by R.R. Verdi, which is the second book. I think it's called The Tales of something, Tremaine. That's what it was. The Tales of Tremaine, and I believe the main character literally calls himself the storyteller or something. So yeah, the main character is a storyteller, so very clearly fits this one. Prompt 8, or the third prompt in the second row, is Prologues and Epilogues. Read a book that has either a prologue or an epilogue, and hard mode is the book has both. And I believe the book that I picked up does have both. It has a prologue. Where was it? It has an epilogue, yeah. So I picked up The Shadow of What Was Lost by James Arlington, so I kind of finally get around to reading this. I picked this up on a whim, and since then I haven't looked at it, and I'm just realizing it's like really satisfyingly floppy for such a small book. Usually it's the bigger books that are this floppy, or the bigger, thinner books, smaller, thinner books, that's what I wanted to say. But yeah, gonna read this one. Then we have prompt number 9, self-pub or indie pub. Pretty self-explanatory, and the hard mode, as always, is fewer than 100 ratings on Goodreads. So let me just see. I'm pretty sure that the book that I picked has fewer than 100 ratings on Goodreads. Oh no, actually it has more than 100 ratings on Goodreads. Incredible. It has 102 ratings, so it's barely not hard mode, but I'm gonna pick this one anyway, and that's Angels and Men by Rafael Nicolas, which is the sequel to Angels Before Men, which I read a couple of months ago and I really enjoyed. And this only just came out, so I had to pick it up right away. And the last prompt for the second row is Romantasy. Read a book that features romance as a main plot. The book must be speculative in nature but does not have to be fantasy, and hard mode is the main character is queer. I do not have surprisingly hard mode on this one, but that's because I only have very few romantasy books on my TBR in general. And the book that I picked was The Beautiful Ones by Silvia Moreno Garcia, and since the romance is mentioned in the back of the story, I'm just gonna say that this is romantasy, definitely, and has romance as a main plot point. Third row is dark academia. Read a book that fits the dark academia aesthetic. This includes school and universities, secret societies, and dark secrets. I find it very interesting that the explanation specifically mentions the aesthetic and not that it has to be dark academia, because in my opinion most dark academia books more so fit the aesthetic rather than actually, you know, providing commentary on academia. However, that is neither here nor there, and the book that I decided to pick was An Education in Malice by S.T. Gibson, which is dark academia. It's set in a college. I'm pretty sure it like involves two girls and their supervisor. It's polyamorous and it's a retelling of Carmilla. So yeah, I am very excited to start this one. For number 12, I do not yet have a book because I am pretty sure that I can just pick whichever book I read during the year, but the prompt is multi-POV, read a book with at least 3 point of view characters, and hard mode is at least 5 point of view characters. Then number 13 is a book that was published in 2024 with hard mode. It's the author's first published novel. I will not go for hard mode for this one. However, I picked The Brides of High Hill by Niveau, which I have also already read because I had an arc of this. It's gonna be published in May, and I really enjoyed it. It's the last book. Well, actually, it's not the last book because we're getting 3 more, but it's the 5th book in the Singing Hills novella series. Prompt 14 is character with a disability. Read a book in which an important character has a physical or mental disability, and hard mode is a character has a physical and mental disability. However, I did not choose hard mode for this one. I chose The Whispering Dark, which is one of the Illumicrate books that I've had for ages, and the main character is deaf, if I remember correctly, or at least hard of hearing. And so yeah, I am very excited to get, actually I'm not very excited to get to this one. I am very excited to finally have read this one. It was one of the YA releases by Illumicrate, so that's why I haven't picked it up yet. And then the last prompt for the 3rd row was published in the 1990s. Read a book that was published in the 1990s, and hard mode is the author or one of the authors has published also something in the last 5 years. I'm sorry, I mixed up the words there, but you get what I mean. I picked one of the old fantasy stories that I have, and that's The Company of Glass by Valerie Leith, which is the first book in the Avarian series. And I picked this up at some point at a used bookstore. And yeah, I don't know if this author has published anything in the last 5 years. I don't assume so though. 4th row. The first prompt, once again, I don't have anything for yet, and that is Orcs, Trolls, and Goblins. Read a book featuring Orcs, Trolls, or Goblins, and hard mode is it's a main character. I have already read The Serpent Gates, so couldn't pick that one. But this is probably gonna be the prompt where I'll use my reread for that one, and I'll probably pick The Fellowship of the Ring because I recently started listening to the Andy Serkis audiobook of that, so I'm probably just gonna pick that. For prompt 17, I also don't have anything yet, and that is space opera. Read a sci-fi that features a large cast of characters and has a focus on social dynamics. And hard mode is written by an author of a marginalized gender identity, so women, trans people, non-binary people, etc. And I will probably either pick up, wait, Nona I think is the, yeah, Nona the 9th, so the 3rd book in the Locked Tomb series, or I'll pick Traitor Baru Cormorant, or if there's a sci-fi space opera that's part of Illumicrate once again that I'm interested in this year, maybe I'll pick that, but I haven't really decided. Also, if you have any recommendations to space operas you think I'll really enjoy, leave them down below. And prompt number 18 is an author of color. Read a book by an author of color, and hard mode is must be a debut novel published in the last 5 years, and I didn't pick the debut novel thing. However, I picked the Tensored series, or I guess the first one, which I always forget. It's The Black Tides of Heaven by Neon Yang. I will probably read the entirety right away though, because it's the bind-up of the 4 novellas. And Neon Yang is, I'm not quite sure, queer non-binary author based in Singapore. So yeah, loved it. I could actually also use this for my Read Around the World challenge, I guess. So love that for me. Then we have number 19, Survival. Read a book in which the primary goal of the characters is survival. And hard mode is no superviruses or pandemics. And I have Invocations by, what's the author's name? Crystal Sutherland. This is the, I think, Evernight box edition, because a friend of mine actually got hers damaged. And like the dust jacket was literally ripped, and so she got a second copy of it and gave me the one without the dust jacket, which is really amazing. And so yeah, I'm gonna be reading that one, and the description says something about survival, and it's horror, so horror is almost always about survival, right? So yeah, really excited for that one. I'm always saying really excited. I don't know why, because not gonna lie, I'm not the same amount of excited for all of these. But yeah, also I think this fits hard mode because I can't remember this being anything with pandemics. Number 20 is Judge a Book by its cover, and hard mode is pick the book based only on the information available on the cover, no reading blurbs. And for that one, I chose A Dark and Drowning Tide by Alison Saft, I think the author is called. Because look at this cover. This cover is so gorgeous that I want to read it, even though it's YA. Like, excuse me? I'm sorry. And I still haven't looked at what this is about, so yeah. And then last row we have Prompt 21, set in a small town. The primary setting is a small town. And hard mode, the small town can be real or fictional, but the broader setting must be our real world. And for this one, I chose Her Majesty's Royal Coven by Juno Dawson, which I did not like. However, it is set in a small town and it's set in the real world, so I'm picking it for this one. And I don't want to talk about it anymore. Then we have the classic 5 SFF short stories, any 5 short stories or novelettes, and hard mode is an entire speculative collection, anthology or collection. And for that one, I do manage hard mode because I'm gonna pick Anne Bishop's The Lady in Glass and Other Stories, which is a collection of some reprinted, but generally a collection of all her short stories. Some that have been published previously and some that have not. A lot of them set in the different worlds that she has written in. Then we have number 23, Eldritch Creatures. Read a book featuring a being that is uncanny, unearthly, and weird. This can be a god or monster from another plane or realm and is usually beyond mortal understanding. And hard mode is the book is not connected to the Cthulhu mythos. And for that one, I chose The Midnight Kingdom by Tara Sim because this one has a bunch of gods in it, and I guess technically I don't know if you can call them eldritch gods, but I'm stretching the definitions here, okay? And then 24, we have reference materials. Read a book that features any additional material, map, footnotes, glossary, etc. And hard mode is the book contains at least 2. And I chose a book that has only 1, and that is, where is it? The Spear Cuts Through Water. And we have a like very pretty map here, which you probably can't properly see. And I think that's it in terms of reference materials, so whatever, but I want to finally read it, so yes, we're gonna do this. And then the last one is book club or read along, and as always, I mean, they talk about having like book clubs on r/fantasy, but as always, I'm not interested in looking up book clubs on r/fantasy, so I'll just pick whatever book from my book club that I read during the year that I haven't already picked for any of the other prompts. And so yeah, that was it for this video. If you enjoyed it, maybe think about giving me a thumbs up and also maybe subscribing. All links to my social media as well as to my book club are linked down below, so go and check those out. And I hope I'll see you soon. Bye!